Good day, this is Regina's Rabbit Hole, and I just wanted to explain to you what I was doing with the dancing. There's some birds flying over my head. It was kind of funny. Alright, so I want to explain to you what you see when I'm dancing. Now, this is interesting to me. What I'm working on achieving, and what I think I do at times, is just think of the bliss. Think of an orgasmic moment, meaning the time and space when you're not thinking about anything. You're just being. And it's a result of something that you did or not. Let me try to explain. Our heart beats, whether we ask it to or not. It's innate, right? And in between that heartbeat is another rhythm that they found is golden mean. In life, we do things, and it's our intent, whether we realize it or not, that leads us to the next moment. And it's those things that are in our unconscious that actually move law of attraction, right? And universal laws. So what I'm getting at is, in this dance, to be in that space where I'm not dictating, where it's unchoreographed, and in between those spaces and movements, perhaps can be dictated or discovered, just like the space that was found in between the heartbeat, or the intent behind people's motives when they do things. You know, the deeper spiritual aspect of who we are can come through with movement. And we are carbon, essentially crystals, light trapped inside carbon, light code frequencies. So the birth date, my arm's getting tired. Your birth date is the corresponding light code frequency that was available for that space and time, for whatever womb space that you sparked up in. Isn't that amazing? You know, and that's how we get our astrology and numerology and stuff that makes us unique, like snowflakes. I mean, it's all snow, it's all flakes, right? It's all water. It's all carbon, right? Atoms and protons and neutrons. But they're arranged in a particular way, which enables them access to certain information. Humans versus animals, for instance. Plant life versus humans, and how they portray information, and the realm that they have access to. You know, you plant a seed and poof, you get something from this dirt. I mean, what is this really, huh? It's so magical. You know, even after all this time and all the pollutants and things like that, you know, all the trauma that has happened, all the moving around and displacement, you can still plant a seed and get life. And that's amazing. That's a life force all of its own. And you find there's ants. You find their conversation with you depicted on what they are, right? Like herbs versus flowers, beauty versus practicality, right? Versus nutrients. Intent. Now, we are not plants and we don't talk plant, but that's an obvious distinguishment that they are making. If they did sign language, if they ever did, it would be like, hey, I'm not playing around, I'm from medicine. And this one would be like, hey, don't play with me, because, you know, you can do this. And this one is like, I'm beautiful, I'm astonishing, and I'm rare, or, you know, or I'm a daffodil, or whatever they're saying. They have secrets too, you can investigate. There's a saying that every plant in the native culture, every plant is meant for something good. Every plant is a medicine, but we've forgotten the language, you know? I believe that. And so, while studying, we realize that this is a planet of duality. It says a lot. There's a pole to everything. A daffodil is eating somebody's flowers. A daffodil is a good healing agent. You know, it's a good cleansing agent for your body. Is a daffodil a weed? Well, that would depend on your perception or not. Is a daffodil a weed? It might be if it's eating what you desired. If it's taking nutrients away from what you desired in your garden, you could consider it a weed. But someone else may need that for a healing plant, you know? So is dance just dance? It's a way of looking at things, the way we utilize things. And our intent behind things is what I'm getting at. And so, when I was looking at all this information, and I was looking at the art that some of us put out, I was looking at the information that we share with one another, the conscious community. I'm not going to nitpick words too much today. The communities that outsource information and tools to help us accomplish our goals in a world where we are under attack. And it's only unseen forces because we're not allowed to know who they are, or unseen forces because many of the people around us are not aware that there is sabotage going on, that there's other things going on. You know, whether you want to say GMO or chemtrails, or what's going on with water, or what's going on with, I don't know, a number of different things, right? I'm not even going to get into it, but all this stuff is with us, and it's in our heads, and it's a part of our unconscious mind. No slavery, modern day slavery, electronic slavery, electronic warfare. You use online to contact people that you care about, or you want to care about, or you want to warn, or you have a like-mindedness with, but at the same time you're using the technology that you may be complaining about is targeting you. So this world is very confusing at the moment and builds a lot of feelings. It's the chaos, it's the dual, it's the duality, it's the pull. And it's still useful. It's all a ball of energy. And so what is it saying in between the lines? What are the things that we're studying and that we're into as a collective? What is it saying? I would hope to know more. But studying the tree of life, studying Tai Chi and movement, I don't lose my mind, just doing the yoga and the breathing to help me as a tool. And dance, and then looking at, it is like over 80 degrees out here, y'all. It's one of the first beautiful hot days. So I'm not going to worry too much about how I look until later and I go through it. Listen, there is so much that we're doing unconsciously, and that's what our problem is. And so just like that space in between the heartbeat And just like how life around us is saying things that many of us are not interpreting, like the difference between a flower and a healthy plant. Dance is not just dance. There's pole dancing and there's pole dancing. What? So, what is Spirit saying? What could Spirit possibly say through certain movements of breathing and dance and geometrical patterns through sacred geometry? If we are carbon and we are light code frequencies, if we're crystals, if I can get healing and information from crystals, and crystals are used in this very mechanism that I'm using, and the way they've corrupted dance and music, taking it away from its original frequency, it's got to be important, right? Stay away from that. Don't touch it. Sometimes you just got to look, especially if they're using it on the low. Hey, what is that? Why is controlling music and dance and the arts so important? For me, it's my direct contact with my creator and with our planet, with you. It helps me stay centered. I actually get insight. Let's see if I can get on the porch or someplace shady, because here we go. Okay. Hope I don't sit in ants. I love outside, but you gotta watch out. And I happen to wear a skirt today. Good day, family. Okay, so if we're light code frequencies, how did that stop just because we're citizens of wherever? It's my birthright to still continue to be a light code frequency, because my package spirals out, and my gifts that my creator gave me are what I am. And if people didn't tamper with that, if it wasn't shaped and molded by language or education, by our environment, by religion, by sanctions, by social engineering, by tampering with the capacity of the mind to develop through GMOs and music and yada, yada, yada. That stuff is all there. And our consciousness, we're thinking about it. All of us. And one way or another, it's there. And we dance. We dance for many different reasons. We tap dance, and we ballet, we pirouette, we hoochie coochie, we twerk, we do the hoedown, and we hip hop. Did anybody look in between the lines, like how we found language from the Iconian? That language actually comes from the actual light. It's the light code frequency that it was. Now, mind you, I'm not a martial artist specialist, and I'm not a metaphysics specialist. There's a lot of things that I'm not a specialist at, that I dabble in, like I like to put things together, And so I guess you could say I was fringe, the in-between-the-line girl. I take all the little things that I learned from my other brothers and sisters, and I internalize them and let it do what it do. Because I think that that's where we are. That's what we're supposed to be doing with the information, is expanding on it. To be useful. I make myself useful by doing some different stuff. By learning the things that I feel like you're teaching that will help with all the things that I mentioned. And so learning mudra and learning about the tree of life and learning about maybe how can I plant a better garden, learning that I'm a carbon light frequency, all that was a result of just trying to figure out how to unravel my own environment and how to just not lose it and make myself useful, you know? And so when I dance, if we got language from light, and we know that a flame is light. Dr. Phil Valentine talked about this, and many others. Now, I've been studying with many teachers. It's not studying with, but following and studying their stuff for some years now. Putting little pieces together and doing what I can do, kind of isolated here in this town. But okay, back to what I was saying. The bottom line is that my hope is eventually we'll be able to decipher some of the movements. Now, there is a difference between the wooden pole and the copper, and even in conductivity, when you do certain movements with the spinning, with the inertia, with the making patterns and stuff, just like glyphs and symbols, sigils can bring to your unconscious mind certain things, and that's why language is so detrimental at times to our unconscious mind in the way that we look at words. And the same way, these patterns and shapes and stuff that I'm making unconsciously, by studying them consciously and learning what they are and where they came from, I was learning what I was doing unconsciously because I wanted to know what it was that was coming to me. Like, you know, if you had just grabbed the pole and it started to develop into something and you didn't have a teacher, you would have to look this up like, you know, what the heck am I doing? Like the guy with the mashed potatoes in Close Encounters. You start to look for what it is. And so I know that our ancestors are trying to tell me something. And for now, even if it's a way to channel and interpret, to flesh out some of the pain or the anxiety or the confusion, or even to bring joy, I dance. And I learn these other things, and while I do, I express myself through improv. And I use different music and stuff, whatever comes to mind. Sometimes whatever I just pop up and have available, so I'm not fidgeting too much. Whatever I like and I come across online, whatever I think they're not going to mess with me about, because they mess with me about music. But what I will hope to do in the future is make this a lot more, here's the paradox, scientific. Not in a way that it's sterile, but in a way that it could be confirmed. There we go. We want to confirm that these different methods have a useful connection point, right? Practical application. And so that's what I'm after. Okay? So this is Regina's Rabbit Hole. Furthermore, being a woman and what has happened to the female principle in today's world, and how we are all fighting and struggling so hard to figure out, okay, well, what does that mean now, being a woman? The men are trying to figure out what. Even the men are trying to figure out, what does that mean now, being a woman? With men becoming women and women wanting to become men, and jobs changing, and everything has changed. What does it mean to be a woman? I didn't like what I saw going on with could we call it traditional feminism? Who tells me that? I knew something was definitely wrong when you tell me I can't have another label. That one wasn't sitting with me. And the one we got wasn't working. It's broken. But you can't tell me I can't define myself outside of all that. So what does the feminine spirit mean right now in this world that's full of so much chaos and also so much love? And what we hope for our children and the world or each other. How can we define that? And how they left us so many little spaces to express ourselves as women within our sexuality. And what does that mean to us? It's useful. If our sexuality, if our very nature can make a baby, and it seems to be the one thing, the booty in this war, the women are so suppressed when you think of it. And it's just so natural. It's so natural for the majority of the world to want to be free and say, I feel like a slave, and then say things like, my wife. She has no name. But this is normal part of our culture, and it's the programming in our unconscious mind. I wouldn't even say that it's deliberate on many people's. I wouldn't say that it was deliberate. I've seen men go beyond to respect women, to help women, to be kind, and that's important to me to see that. As an incest survivor, as a woman who has been abused in the past, I leave that door open. I'm not trying to bring that to the next person. It's like a mirror thing. Whatever you bring to me is what I'm going to bring back to you. But as women, I see, there's, if I want to be sexy, what? My only way of doing that is the strip club? To earn money? There's women actually backed into that as there's not too many options going on. There's a lot of programming. Stripper. I need money. I need to pay my bills. I'd rather do that than be on welfare or not have no money or whatever it is. I got a past I'm not even talking about right now. But it made me, being a survivor of incest and finding my way to still love and finding what does that mean and trying to figure out what's wrong with my honing program for this little bird. The programming. So rather than lay an egg, I grabbed the pole, took that pole, and I'll beat your butt with it. Spiritually speaking. That's what that's for. And so we have this copper pole that I noticed has a lot more conductivity. And there's even been times when I don't need no sci-fi because my life is definitely Close Encounters. When you can see some videos where I did not edit them. I just kind of disappeared in the video. Now, is it the speed of the camera? Yada yada. Yeah, I rolled it back and the music can't be playing, but the vision, just things, there's times when you can tell the difference when things don't line up. Now, there were times when I had to edit, and I've cut film, but not often. I try not to do that so that I can look back and see certain spots. There's times when you can see orbs, it's interesting. And there's times when there's just nothing. There's just me dancing, and I drop my pole. I keep going. I'm just learning. I'm sharing as I'm going along in hopes that, for instance, I said I'm not a master at any of those things, but someone else is. I'm a jack of all trades and a master of none, right? So you who knows about Econian language or knows about light code frequency and carbon and crystals and all that kind of stuff, like I pull that information from you, it sticks to me. I had a dream once that I was endpoint 0. And I was terrified because all this stuff was coming at me. And I didn't know what to grab or even how to hold on to it. When I reached my hand up, it would just poof, 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 poof. And I didn't know what I was doing in this space. I was supposed to do something. And every time I kept getting put back there, I said, well, what do I grab onto? In my mind, I just knew you have to grab onto the things that are going to stay. And I would think in my heart, well, what's going to stick to me? What can I grab that I'm going to remember? I don't even know what to take in here. It was just poof, 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 like little orbs or things flying at me. And what are you going to take with you? It's just whatever it is that's a part of you. And so just be. And whatever that is, I take little bits and pieces from you because all is self. You know? And not everybody's going to be able to understand every part of what I'm saying. You have to be on a certain, you know what I'm saying, a certain frequency, but you'll be able to understand some of what I'm saying. And that's what's so awesome about it. And that's what I'm saying. The jack of all trades and the master of none. You are going to pick up on a certain portion of what I'm saying. And that's where the research and the fringe, and that's where this being in this space makes it so awesome. Because I can take from you and apply what I need to me, like being in that space. And you can also do the same for me. And in doing that is the entwinement that we're already in. And so when I dance and I meditate and this stuff is unconsciously with me, when we are unconsciously with me, and I'm working in the meditation space, in the ethers, symbols or colors or frequencies come to mind, when I can lose self and just be spirit in any way. You know, I believe, you know, that that's what we are, because if we're light code frequency, it's almost like we're these bones and flesh and things, they entrapped us. And the only time I feel free is when I can shake it loose. And the only way I can shake it loose sometimes is just to be in a space of meditation where I forget. I have to forget this flesh, and I have to forget what other people want and their expectations, so that I can just be that light code frequency. You know what I'm saying? And then I'm like, sis, you know what I mean? And then it's fun. Even when they're trying to kill us, then it's fun. Because I'm connecting with the Creator and with the all and who I am. And so that's the space that I want to clean up and get to with the... Right now, this is all fun and practice, learning. Okay? And I'm sharing it as I go along, as I've been taught to do, as I've chosen to do, as messy as it looks, to share the journey. So later on, we'll get to the place where I can use drums and certain frequencies and colors deliberately. And let that interpretation kind of more of a, that's what I mean, not sterile, but confirmation, and more like directing the whirlwind. like directing the spiral, like honing it in more so that we can see things a little differently. More scientific, more credible, but still light is light. You know, just like all of us come out different like snowflakes, it's always going to be friends, baby, right? So I don't think that we're ever going to be really able to nail this down. Just like dance morphed from the bird to the swan to Tai Chi, okay? And how capoeira look like a dance, but it's actually a martial arts. Like there is just so many different levels to things. Hand movements sometimes aren't just hand movements. Sometimes it's sign language. You know, sometimes it's spirit speaking, giving a deeper interpretation of what the heart desires, right? And how body language is one of the things that, man, you gotta be an actor. You have to be a pro to fool the body language. And even with actors, they will have to put on a whole persona of an emotion to sink into it so that the body lines up with all that mess. What is all that in us? That we leave so many traces of our truth. Did you know they have technology now that can even trace whether you're telling the truth with your voice? Voice recognition is not just voice recognition anymore. Sound being light code frequency. They can actually detect whether you're telling the truth or not. Isn't that something? Our technology is like way bad now. And I think that's awesome. Like we're so behind. And knowing, being knowledgeable on what they have and what they don't have, which I wouldn't know any of if someone else hadn't done research and I went peeking and nosing around for whatever purposes that I needed it for. Okay, so I said all that to say that all is self. I am an aspect of you that had the time and the direction to do this. Just like in some way or form, you're an aspect of me while you're drawn to this. Like magnets, you know? So, this is Regina's Rabbit Hole, doing her Qigong. Much love to you and yours. I'm out.